Ah, let's talk. Hi, I'm Todd. Welcome to this week's episode of end.formants, END.formants. You can find us on Facebook. This week we're going to talk about welfare reform, Obama's foreign policy. Should America give aid to other countries? Paranormal. And do we burn bridges? That's this week's topics. It's our world. Let's talk about it. On the welfare reform, enlighten us that don't know much about it.
Well, Lisa, I don't know. I'm certainly not an expert on welfare, but I know there's, large abuse going on by a lot of people. There was an article last year in the New York Times and the New York Post that titled "Sweet Charity," and it showed these guys at a strip club giving their welfare money to strippers, and there was an expose about how these welfare grubbers are.
I remember seeing that article. About.
Right. And Lisa, this is, I'll tell you, I'm fortunate. I guess my friends are fortunate because I don't know most of the people I don't know have never been on welfare, and certainly there are a lot of people that deserve welfare. But when what I don't understand is, if you have 16 children, why aren't we capping the welfare per child or have like a time limit on it? I mean, it sends people, lazy people that want to live off the system, to just pop out another baby and then they get more money.
So what are you saying, that if the taxpayers are paying for people to obviously live off of welfare, they should only be allotted so many children? Is that what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is, I don't understand. I worked with a couple women that I really liked. They were really sweet gals, but they both were on food stamps and they both were in Section 8 housing. And they told me how they scam the food stamp system and how they get cash and they spend it on partying and booze. And they even offered to get me lobster, and this one told me she had DirecTV, compliments of the government, and it was a program through HUD. And I thought she was lying, but she brought in the proof and she showed me. Now, I don't have DirecTV, so I don't understand why. It's almost like we incent people who don't want to work, and then they game the system. Now, I'm not talking about a single mother that has two small mouths to feed and can only, feed them with food stamps. I'm talking about the people who go to the grocery store and load up their cart with filet mignon and wine and expensive top shelf items while they're carrying a Dooney and Burke purse, and then they drive away in a Lexus and they whip out the EBT card. There's something wrong with that.
Absolutely. I would agree with that for sure. And so let me ask Debbie how she feels about that. Debbie, what's your feeling about welfare? And I know that there's abuse going on with welfare. There are some women there's some families that need it, unfortunately. But what's your feelings about what Paula was saying?
Well, I think that welfare as a benefit, I think, what you were saying, that absolutely there are people who need that benefit. Just like there are, it's just like anything else in the system that's a benefit. There are going to be your abusers, but there are also going to be people who really need that. Now, having said that, I think there needs to be some reform where that's concerned, because, like in China, for instance, you actually get credits if you don't have children, or, the less children you have, the more credits. So we should kind of look at that. The only reason why that was created, though, was because of the population expansion.
Right.
So, there is a reason for that, but the way that the population is going with, worldwide, it seems like that's the direction that we're taking. So there does need to, as they are doing reform, they do definitely need to look into the welfare reform. Because by like the year year 2050, they're forecasting that actually, the oceans will be dead, and it's just the population today certainly is not contributing to that. Yeah.
Okay,
I want to, but Lisa, I just want to piggyback off what Debbie just said,
right.
Which is brilliant. I just wrote something about this on my Facebook page about, people with multiple children, they get a tax refund, they get a tax break. They can claim them as dependents. I don't have children, so I don't get a tax break because of it. But my money, as well as your money, you don't have kids, as well as Debbie's money, funds our public schools, but we don't take advantage of that. I don't have a problem funding public schools, but I do have a problem when my tax money that I work hard for is siphoned off to support career welfare recipients that know how to game the system. They know every time, look, they're encouraged through welfare to get a job. The thing is, as soon as they are encouraged to get a job, if they get pregnant and have another baby, then they can stay home and get more money. So they're bringing in more kids. I mean, I knew a woman that would joke that if she just would keep having babies because, Uncle Sam would give her money. And she was like, she never had to work. And I mean, so it's contributing to overpopulation.
It's almost like being a whore. It's almost like being a whore, basically.
It is a whore. You know what, Lisa? I don't want to judge. Look, if there is somebody with 12 children and they fall on hard times and they get divorced or something and they really are trying and they need some help from the government, I say help them. But the women who just keep screwing and getting pregnant.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
they are whores. You're right.
Because they're getting paid to basically produce children, and I mean, I don't know anybody, honestly, I don't know anybody who does that, and I certainly don't, I'm not for that. I mean, we got enough problems with the kids that we're raising, today, but how could we change that? And I'm going to give you a minute to think about that, all right? So, we were talking about how to change welfare reform, and if anybody had an idea on how to do that. So, Debbie.
I do.
Okay, so Paula.
Okay. My idea, it's very simple. Number one, drug test all welfare recipients, period. Limit welfare to 2 children. If you want to have 30 kids, I'm all for it. But on your own dime. And while you're on welfare, you should have to perform community service. Go, look, I was on unemployment, and I think the government should have, even though unemployment isn't like welfare because you pay into it. So, but I think the government should have made me go clean highways and do community service. So welfare recipients should for the time period they're on it, they should be giving back to the community.
Well, let me ask you this. Now, let me play devil's advocate here. So, here's a person with a newborn child, or a child that, is still too young to go to school, and the woman's going to perform community service, and what about the child care?
All right, I'll tell you what, they can stuff envelopes from home. Let them do some busy work for the government. Instead of watching Jerry Springer for 8 hours, they can stuff envelopes.
I just want to say, in all fairness, Julie Farrell is a big fan of the Jerry Springer show, and she is not on welfare in the UK. Debbie, I want to talk to you about what are your ideas? I agree with some of those ideas that Paula came out with. Of course, everybody that's on welfare now will have to be grandfathered in, and there'd have to be some sort of element of surprise. Otherwise, everybody would get pregnant right now if that was to be implemented. But so what do you think?
Well, I think that again, with the whole tax credit thing, parents are getting parents are getting tax credits now if they have children. I think some of that should be incorporated with single people who don't have children. I mean, what people need is like an incentive and not something that's going to make them angry or disappointed or, not having faith in the system. So you have to kind of put like a positive spin on it, I guess.
Isn't it true? And this I want to address to you and Paula both. And I know Paula's sitting next to you, but we can't see her on the screen. I mean, with a little bit more imagination and maybe some bipartisanship, I really think that if we implemented things like that and had prisoners actually be able to support the prison in which they live in, and they can, I have no doubt they can, instead of taxpayers paying money into that. I mean, I think that there is certainly a way for our government to go forward um, while it supports itself. But it's like people want to stop within a box and not think outside the box. That does make sense. Why wouldn't somebody on welfare do um, sorting of the mail, even? You know, why couldn't we put them to work? They are, in fact, earning a paycheck, more or less.
Absolutely. Yes, it would definitely, cut down on and on all the expenses and government spending that is so outrageous now that it's probably, it's like way out of control right now.
They can also test the landmines. I'm joking.
Well, we can't see you, so you're almost like a ghost on the. Very interesting views. I want to go into the next topic, which is Obama's foreign policy. Paula,
Yes.
please tell us who don't know. What is it?
Okay. Obama is a globalist, whereas he's the polar opposite of Bush. Now, Bush was a psycho warmonger. The Bush doctrine was basically go and invade any country that will make your balls feel bigger. And he's so stupid that he confused Iraq with Iran. It was one letter, Q and N. You got to give him some slack, okay? Obama, on the other hand, really has quite a loathing for American exceptionalism. And he said this. He's told us who he is. He started with his apology tour where he apologized to everybody for the big bad Americans. He would like to see America on par with, let's say, Zimbabwe. He doesn't want us to be exceptional. He doesn't want us to be wealthy. He wants us to be on par with maybe like a third world country. I mean, I really do, because he's such a globalist that he would rather he'd be happier bolstering the other countries than bolstering our own. He has defunded our military. He has spent more recklessly than any other president before him. He spent more in his one term of office than all the presidents put together before him. But the scariest part is to have a globalist who doesn't understand the importance of a strong national security at the helm when we're facing the most imminent terror threats of our time. And he despises Israel. He's proven this time and time again. Benghazi, that's a whole other topic that Debbie will talk about. But he won't deal with Iran. He's just sent, which to me was the most unbelievable, glaring example of who he is. He just sent Mohammed Morsi, the leader of Egypt, who's the ex-head of the Muslim Brotherhood, who hates America and who shouts death to all Jews. Obama just sent him F-16s and state-of-the-art weapons. If that doesn't send a clear message to all Americans that he is not for our country or for our allies, I don't know what is. And I'm going to give it over to Debbie to talk about Benghazi.
Okay.
Okay, let's just say that the whole Benghazi thing, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but it was definitely a cover-up. From the very beginning, when we were advised that they were protesting because there was a movie made in America, and everyone was all in a tizzy, and there was protesting going on, when in reality the consulate was being attacked. Okay, and we didn't hear about that till like three weeks later.
Actually,
Okay.
I got to be honest with you. I know about that incident, and I only know about it as somebody that watches the news. And I watched. I was happening to watch Fox News that weekend, and it was almost, it was during the debate that all came about. And I got to tell you that before watching that, I was all Obama, but then I felt like he lied to us. That he lied to us, and I did feel like that movie, that documentary, was definitely a scapegoat to what had happened there. That we definitely dropped the ball there as far as what was
Yes.
going on. But go ahead, Debbie.
Well, yeah, we did drop the ball, and the thing is, Hillary, she came out. She was supposed to be the big spokesperson for what happened, and she was supposed to testify. However, coincidentally enough, a few days before she was scheduled to testify, she developed a gas bubble, and then a few days later, she was hospitalized because of a concussion. And still,
And she's not missed a lot of work throughout her whole political career. She's
right,
not missed things. Like
right,
I'm aware.
right. I mean,
she's meticulous.
isn't that a coincidence? Okay.
After she banged her head, she forgot.
And the other thing is, to this day, because she quote unquote unsaid the buck stops here, which made which was a really insult to Truman, honestly, because he really, the buck really stopped with him. Mm-hmm. But with her, to her, it was just a phrase, and just to her it was like, oh well, this is gonna just blow over, basically, and pretty much it did, because to this day we still don't know really what happened.
I did watch an expose on CNN, I think, that did some hour-long program about what happened, and even they who are see an opposing side, usually as Fox, they felt that, or gave the impression that we certainly dropped the ball on that, but let me ask Paula a question. Can we go back to Paula? Paula, what would the president have to gain with your feelings about his foreign policy, that he wants us to be like a third world country? What is his gain for that?
Well, his gain is Obama. You have to understand. Before you can understand a president, you have to understand who they are as a person, and people rarely do that. They become enthralled with them, and they have hero worship. I mean, all of our presidents are men. They're flawed. They're human beings. Obama was born in Hawaii, but he was raised in Kenya and Indonesia. He was raised seeing America as the imperialistic bully. His father was his father fought colonialism his entire life, and his stepfather did too. So here's this young boy who sees firsthand in his formative years America as a ruthless bully. So he comes to the presidency with that mindset, and that's why when he went on his apology tour, which was so insulting, because no lover of America or patriot would ever do that. America, with all of its faults, is the greatest country in the world, and he doesn't think so. And what's revealing too is his wife, Michelle, when she said, for the first time in my American life, or for the first time in my adult life, I'm proud of my country. I'll say that again. For the first time in my adult life, I'm proud of my country. This is a woman who, through affirmative action, went to Princeton, and this is the first time you're proud of your country? Why? Because, and you know what that meant? That had racial overtones. We all knew it. Okay? Obama is a...
Well, I think it definitely had biased overtones. I don't know about the racial bit, but...
Well, what do you think, Lisa, what do you think she meant when she said that?
Oh, I think she was just, standing by her husband.
No.
I don't think it was the right thing to say. But I think that's the way she meant it.
Lisa, she meant for the first time in my adult life, because people are supporting a black candidate. You know what? I agree. We are a racist country, but we've always been. But racism works both ways. There's white racists, there's yellow racists, there's black racists, and I'm sick of the double standard. I really am. And, Obama is a globalist. He hasn't hid that. And every action, he's ruined the economy. I mean, he blames Bush. It's almost 8 years later, or 6, 7 years later. He's still blaming Bush. The economy slunk into the toilet under Bush, but this one pushed it down a waterfall. He's on the wrong side of every issue. And my favorite thing is, if you ask an Obama follower why they like him, they can never tell you. Mm-hmm. They don't even know what he does. Most of the people who voted for him don't even know what he stands for. They're ignorant. And I'm not saying all Obama followers, because I have friends that know everything he's done. And while I consider them socialists and really maybe should move to another country, at least I applaud them for knowing the issues.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, his supporters don't even know what he's done. It's absolutely ludicrous. But what's most glaring is that 80% of the Jews voted for him. This man hates Jews, and he hates Israel. And with the recent nomination of Chuck Hagel, and they're still smiling as they're drinking their Manischewitz, it's sickening.
Okay, well,
Go have a bagel with Chuck Hagel.
Go have a bagel with Chuck Hagel. Debbie, do you have any? You have some comment on that?
I do want to add to that, and another thing that Obama said, which to me was kind of funny, on the inauguration, on the second inauguration just recently, she said, you know, I really admire him, and you know, before he started his presidency, he was like a little boy to me. She said.
Oh, she did.
And to me, that was like saying,
he wasn't ready.
He wasn't ready, but also, she kind of referred to him, to me, that was like a little man. And maybe it's not so much where his background, where he came from, but maybe he's got some sort of that complex.
Oedipus complex.
No, not Oedipus.
Napoleonic
complex.
Okay.
Oh, definitely has a Napoleonic complex.
Yeah, I think Paula has actually said that before. She has referred to him as him having that.
Well, he could. I mean, look, how many times has he put into place executive order?
Oh, more than anybody.
More than any other president. I mean, he just, whatever he wants to do, it seems like he just goes ahead and does it, and because he's the man, you know what I mean? Like, I'm the man. Maybe it's a male thing, or an inferior.
Right.
I mean, his wife is like 8 feet taller than him. No, I'm kidding.
I think the wife has a penis. But Lisa, you know what? Honestly, I mean, if I was married to Michelle, she'd scare the crap out of me. I'd be henpecked too. But what I love about the Obamas is how in the wake of Hurricane Sandy, when Americans were homeless and freezing, they jet off for a $4 million vacation to Hawaii. Rock on, Obamas! Rock on!
Okay. All right, so the next topic was, should we give aid to foreign countries? And I think that we're so poor that we need countries to give aid to us. But Paula, what do you think?
I think that the fact that we send our enemies billions of dollars is psychotic and it needs to stop immediately. We are sending Iran and Egypt and every country that wants to kill us, we send them billions. And my favorite is that we pay like $100 a barrel for I'm throwing out a figure, but it's an astronomical amount for oil. But the Iranians pay us $8 a barrel for grain. I say charge them $100 a barrel for grain, and until they come down, let them eat their goddamn oil. You know what? It's absolutely despicable. There's no reason that we should be sending, honestly, with the straits we're in, we shouldn't be sending anybody aid.
Exactly.
Stop all aid. It's ridiculous. Every time there's a natural disaster in some remote island in another continent, we're going over there and sending billions.
Yeah, but in the meantime, that there's still people that are still suffering through the Hurricane Sandy.
I know. Yes. That's what I'm saying, Lisa. It's ridiculous. Look, if somebody came to my house, if I had if I was sitting at home and eating dinner and some stranger walked in, I wouldn't serve him caviar and then make my children go hungry. It's absolutely ridiculous. On to Debbie.
Well, I think definitely it is, as Paula said, it's way too much. However, we give money, a lot of times not to be good, good hearts. We give money for political reasons also. In other words, Korea, like anytime they open their mouth about they have a nuke, we're right all in that, and we're like, okay, how much do you want?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the political reasons behind that is to not to keep from starting wars and so on. But I think definitely that if they're especially you mentioned the storms in New York, Sandy. I mean that. I still can't believe that those people are still in need of money and they haven't received it yet. I mean, it doesn't...
They basically, a lot of them are living, and I know this, a lot of them are living like week to week in hotels.
Maybe they should move to Iran and they can take the money that we send Iran, the billions.
that would be a dangerous position. But it is ridiculous.
saying.
I know, I'm joking too. I was being, listen, Julie from the UK would have gotten that dry sense of humor bit. But, I mean, the truth is, this is the truth. Um, so, what I was saying earlier was that, I was quite embarrassed when Hurricane Katrina came about and people were dying on the streets and they had newsmen that were watching them, unfortunately. Not that the newsmen could do anything, but it was just so disorganized in the United States of America. And it wasn't long after that that Chile had suffered, I believe it was an earthquake or a tidal wave. And
No,
but
your natural disasters.
it was, but and that basically is a third world country, and yet they were throwing rice and water, you know, to people, and we couldn't even help people in our own country. And I mean, come on, now, how long ago was that? I mean, that's modern day, and we were having such an issue. And I was quite embarrassed about that, and the fact that people are still, suffering with the Hurricane Sandy at this point and living day to day in hotels waiting to be told that their FEMA money's run out is, absurd, But Debbie, you had a comment about something that you had seen?
Well, I didn't really research it yet, but I did hear. I thought I heard on I believe I don't know, some major news station that the sequestration that's coming up in March, which is basically where they're going to do a bunch of cutting,
Mm-hmm.
government cutting. I heard that Sandy is kind of included in that.
That it's going to be included in the cuts. In the meantime, people are suffering horribly. So, the next topic I think that we had talked about bringing up was abortion. I don't know where that topic came from, but who wants to touch that hot topic?
Sure, why not?
This one does.
Okay.
Well, my opinion on abortion is I'm against abortion, but I'm pro-choice with limits. I think too many women use it as birth control, and I think that when you have 3 abortions in your life, there's something wrong. Mm-hmm. But on the other side, the pro-lifers who say they're pro-life are really just pro-fetus because when the child's born, they don't give a crap about them. So I don't know what the answer is. I guess to err on the side of humanity, I'm pro-choice. Mm-hmm. But, there's just too many people. I don't understand how, in this day and age, with all the prophylactics and contraceptives, that people are getting pregnant before they're married. Or, I mean, if you want to have a baby without a father, I mean, have at it. But I don't understand an accident. I just don't. I mean, I have friends. I mean, look, I know I had a friend who was on the pill and she got pregnant. That kind of accident I get. Mm-hmm. But bearing the 1% of women that are so fertile myrtle, they get pregnant on the pill, there's no reason for it. If you're 13 years old, you know about the birds and the bees these days, and you know about condoms and birth control. Right. There's no reason that...
And you'd hope that you know about safe sex.
Right, absolutely. There's no reason why young kids are making babies. There's no reason why somebody who's in a bad marriage has 8 children with a man and then ends up getting dumped because he cheats on her and then she has to live off the government.
Right.
There's no reason for it. You know what? And what really boggles my mind is they're against gay adoption when most of the screwed up kids are from straight homes.
Absolutely.
And I'm not, you know what I'm saying? It's just ridiculous. Debbie, come on and weigh in.
Debbie, what's your feeling about abortion and what Paula was saying?
Well, I think that definitely, especially in this day and age, with the way that things are going with the economy and, like we mentioned before, the population expansion, and, all the things are just, they seem so much more tougher these days than they did.
Right.
I would think that people would be a little more careful about, creating another life in this world. But as far as like Paula was mentioning, I am pro-choice only because of the implication, the ethical implication of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But as far
So, for
as
being politically correct, you're pro-choice.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, but Lisa, if you take away a woman's right to choose, then I mean that really sets up a whole lot of moral, inconsistencies. I mean, it's sort of like, both options aren't optimal, but I think pro-choice is the humane thing. That's my opinion.
And I agree. And I agree. I wouldn't want somebody to tell me what to do with my body. But that does bring up an issue that was off topic, but I'd like to bring it up. And I do think this is an important issue. There are some people, some men, that impregnate a woman, and the woman is the only one that can say she's going to have the child or not.
I agree. That's not right.
And I mean, I think that there should be, the voice of the dad, because ultimately, either which way, the dad will be responsible for paying for the child should the child live. So, I mean, where do you stand on that? And I know it's off topic, but personally, what do you think about that? Should something be changed along the lines of that? Debbie.
Well, I mean,
Or
Lisa,
Paula.
I agree. I agree 100% with what you said. If the father wants to be present and support the child, then he has 50% equal rights to whether he wants the child, even if the mother doesn't wants to abort. But that's only if the father's willing to step up and support the baby. If he's not, he has no say.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
no, yeah, I definitely agree because it takes two to raise a child, and it takes two to have a child. So why should the mother have the only choice? I mean, there are a lot of good fathers out there who actually do want to have children and take care of them.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I agree. So, but I hear what you were saying earlier about, that it's so difficult in the world today that, basically, and you didn't say this, but I thought it, that, it's really scary to raise children and to have faith and hope that they're going to make it through the end of their life without any kind of great sorrow. And,
Right.
and that's, we're going to use that as like a segue to.
Lisa, can I say one more thing?
You ruined my segue, but go ahead.
I'm sorry. I mean, 13-year-olds are having babies these days.
Right.
13-year-olds. My goodness. This is what I don't understand, okay? In my day, my parents never broached the topic of sex. It was not talked about. We had to learn it in health class. But in these days, with the internet and the children of today at 9, they know more about sex than I probably do.
Mm-hmm.
I know the birds and the bees early, but the thing is, it's the duty of the parent to sit down with your child and have a very frank and candid talk, not only about premarital sex and promiscuity, but about safe sex. I don't understand why, in this day and age, that anybody's young child would be getting pregnant or getting somebody pregnant. I just don't understand. To me, that's a parent dropping the ball.
It's bad parenting.
It's bad parenting. Parenting. It absolutely is. I mean, I have plenty of friends with children, and their kids are all mostly in college, and none of them have knocked anybody up, or none of them have gotten pregnant. And I am not saying anything against young parents, because my sister had her first child at 17. I have friends that mothered children very young. I'm not,
Right.
criticizing them. I'm just saying that, I mean, if you have a child, it's your duty to guide them and make sure that you instill in them. I mean, even if you have to use scare tactics, so where they won't. I mean, my gosh, there's so.
It'll fall off. It'll fall off if you put it in there.
Absolutely. I don't understand. I really don't. Okay.
It will make you blind.
Segue, baby, segue.
Okay, well, the segue was about, I was going to play on the word scary and bring up the paranormal. Do you believe in paranormal activity, or in the fact that there's spirits and energy out there that could possess you to behave in certain ways? Is there entities out there like that? Debbie, what do you think?
Well, personally, actually, I don't. I'm on kind of the cusp, because anything that can be explained by any entity is also refuted with scientific evidence. In other words, I think we watched a documentary about a boy who was possessed or supposedly possessed, and they found that he actually, science has, found that there was something actually in his brain that was making it appear like he was possessed. Okay, I mean, I personally haven't, experienced anything like that or known of anybody to have like an exorcism, or being possessed by.
She needs an exorcism. That's why she says this.
But certainly, I do feel, as far as like from an energy perspective, I do feel that there is energy out there. And whether, what the source, whether it's like a universal energy or from a being or, I believe that there are, things that do guide you, and there is something to be said about energy, which, brings like the segue into God. And, is there really a God? No one really knows if there's God. I mean, there's your faith, and then there's people who believe and people that don't. But one thing is interesting enough. The fact itself that people change their behavior based on their faith that there is a God, that to me in itself is a miracle. Okay, because if there were no, say, possibility of God being there at all, like in other words, if somebody just said, scientifically, there's no way that God ever existed. And if they were able to prove that 100%, the world would be a much different place. There would be a lot more evil in this world, for sure, because people, they tend to in being religious, they tend to.
It certainly will guide them in a more positive path, wouldn't it?
Well, no, I think it would in a negative path.
No. Religion guides them in the more positive path. Yeah.
That in itself, has a lot to say about the faith and about religion. However, there are some, a lot of religions that do kind of feed off of that, and that's why they exist as a religion. That's why I feel that God to you is personal, and to me, I don't need to go to church or belong to any kind of a demographic, because to me, God it's inside, where I get that energy. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So, Paula, do you have any? I mean, have you experienced something
Actually,
or?
Lisa, I'm very, very. This is one of my main interests in my life is metaphysics and the supernatural. I mean, if I had my druthers, aside from being a senator, I think I'd love to be a paranormal psychologist. I think it's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I am skeptical. When I was younger, I went to a lot of psychics for entertainment. I would never stake my life on them, but I've had some experiences that really you have to believe. I mean, really stuff that would probably make you believe if I told you. But I believe that if you believe in God, that it only makes sense to believe in the dichotomy, the counterpart, which is evil. I mean, the Bible talks about, in the Torah talks about Lucifer as being the most beautiful angel that wanted to take over, and God struck him down.
I believe in the Bible. It says if you don't believe in the evil, then you don't believe in God.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I see that makes that makes sense. But, I think, Debbie, were you talking about the documentary we saw on The Exorcist?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Debbie must have been having an ADD moment, because I watched the same documentary, and...
That's what it's about, though, interpretation.
No, okay, it wasn't interpretation, Lisa. At the end, I think she fell asleep. They showed that after they really put this guy through a battery of tests, this kid, it was a boy, his name was Reagan, he was a boy, and they determined that it was nothing psychological, hence they believed he was possessed. Now, do I believe that everybody that says they were demonically possessed was? Of course not. I think most often it is psychological in nature, but do I believe in possession? I do. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that I mean, look, in Judaism, we call it a debuk, and a debuk is an evil spirit or a spirit that wanders around that is looking to possess a being. And debuks can be good and bad. There could be a good. I wish a really successful, rich waspy debuk would possess me, and I could like win the lottery. But there's energy, and I think that if somebody's weak or going through a difficult time in their life, they're susceptible. I mean, I have known people that I swear to you, I think that they have some sort of evil spirit in them, because the way they treat others and the way they navigate their lives it's beyond psychological in nature. It really speaks to a contaminated soul. And I haven't met many of those, and when I do, I can feel it in the pit of my stomach, because I am intuitive. I've been told by psychics that I am psychic. So I pick up on energy, and if I feel a bad soul, a bad seed,
Right.
I get them out of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, I mean, I don't mean to sound like a zany, believer, but I mean, even if you take it as far as negative energy, that they don't have to be evil, but even as far as negative energy.
Or even like a red flag that has to do with their with their personality.
Well, Lisa, I'll give you a little example. I recently resumed my study of the Kabbalah, and the Kabbalah, as you know, predates the Torah. It's the first teachings of Judaism, and all the New Age philosophies today are based on the Kabbalah, and the Kabbalah teaches about energy and how it can infect you. And I'll tell you something, there have been studies, and these are scientific studies, that prove that if you have somebody negative and toxic in your life, that it actually affects your brain chemistry. I'll tell you, I've had friends that after a half an hour conversation on the phone with them, I just want to take a shower, because, look, everybody is allowed to go through a bad period in their life and complain or talk. But there's a difference when you gotta sign out. You gotta shut it down. I don't know why you signed out. You gotta shut it down. All right. Okay. There's too much of an echo, sweetheart. Okay, thanks. Come sit next to me. Come sit next to Uncle Paulie. You're the smarter one, so you better be here. All right. So anyhow, now you made me lose my train of thought. Okay. Negative people. Look, everybody's allowed to go through a bad period in their life,
right,
where they're gonna talk to you and complain and whine. Everybody's allowed. We've all done it, but there's just some people out there that are just negative. Everything is a fight. Everything isn't, they have to twist and just make it something negative. And those are the people you really want to avoid. I mean, my mom I love her, but she's like that. And, I have relatives, and, you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm blessed because I'm really surrounded by wonderful people with positive energy, but there's a couple bad apples, and you got to stay away from them. I'm not saying dump them, but demote them.
Right.
Unless, of course, you want to walk around.
Oh, no, I definitely think that that's as contagious as a smile.
It is.
I definitely feel that way. Debbie, what's your feelings about it? I mean,
definitely, if you're around more, positive people, you're gonna.
Well, positive energy, I think, creates positive energy. I believe in that. What you put out there, you get back. Okay, so I didn't mean to cut you off, Debbie. Did you have anything to add to the?
No, it's just I mean, when we think of possession, we think of like the old, the devil taking over. And,
I think of Linda Blair with the green pea suit.
Right, but just like Paula was mentioning, maybe somebody going ballistic and shooting a whole school of children, maybe that's a form of possession.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know what was going on in his head.
Yeah.
And I pray that I never understand what went on in his head. So I wanted to go to the last topic. And for those people that don't care, that's my dog Miles in the background. But the last topic was about burning bridges, and do you burn bridges, and how could we benefit? I mean, I thought, wow, do we really need to talk about that? I can end it in one sentence. Why do that? You never know where life is going to take you again. Why would you burn a bridge? But we wanted to talk about it, so let's talk about it. Debbie? Burning bridges. Debbie's gone. Recording again, and we just went off at the paranormal bit where I kept talking, which I might or might not leave on. We'll decide. So the last thing was about burning bridges, and I couldn't understand why somebody would do that because they don't know where the future is going to take them. You know, sometimes it goes in a loop until you get it right. So, what's your feeling about that?
I never, ever, ever, ever burn bridges.
Yeah, it's not good policy. It's not good policy at all. Paula.
Well, hold on, here I come. I was over burning a bridge. I don't believe in
Not the
burning
one that leads back your way, though, right? Which
That's
bridge?
right. I don't believe, Lisa, it depends, okay? I think it's really a stupid idea to burn bridges unless somebody has really wronged you or betrayed you. Then I don't see why you keep them in your life.
Right.
But, you know, I have a policy. I don't really, unless somebody really treats me in an egregious way, I try not to boot them out of my life. And if they're a bad person, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, what I do is I demote people. And I'll tell you what I mean. If somebody hurts me and doesn't treat me the way that I treat them, I demote them and they become acquaintances. And that's it. Or they go on what I call the Christmas list. And the Christmas list is basically,
Once
you
a
might
year.
hear from me once a year. And
Yeah.
that's it. But what I don't understand is people that tolerate, you know, I don't know, bullshit from others. I mean, if somebody treats you like isn't good to you in a relationship or a friendship, if they're not there for you or they're not an equal friend to you, why do you keep them in your life? And why do you call them a friend? Because
Well, you know, I got to tell you that you and I have the same philosophy. We just call it different things. I never use the term as demoting somebody, but my actions have done such. And you know, what I do is, you know, if somebody is aggressive towards me, or you know, they want to take out their day on me, then you know that might happen once or twice. Doesn't happen a third time because then I put up boundaries. For instance, I have, and listen, you know, you have family members that do that as well. But if somebody is so erratic that you never know what to expect when they call, then you know, that one person, I don't just answer the phone and say hello because they could ruin my day. So what I do, I see you. What I do is with them, I wait for them to leave a message to see what kind of mood they're in before I bother calling them back. And that's me putting up a boundary.
I like that, Lisa. I'm going to try that. That's a really good idea.
But you had your hand up.
Yeah, and you know what? Just because somebody's blood related to you doesn't mean you have to put up with their bullshit either. If somebody in your family is not good to you, demote them. And don't take, I mean, I don't understand. Lisa, I hate doormats. Doormats, I just don't respect people that don't respect themselves. If your family is ugly or wicked to you, don't keep trying to make the relationship better. That's enabling. And I just can't deal with enablers, okay?
Right.
Because you want to shake the stuffing out of them, and you just can't. If you have a friend that, you know, has betrayed you or has abandoned you in your time of need, demote them. I mean, put them on the Christmas list. If not, you're an enabler and you're a doormat. And I want to shake the stuffing.
Let me give you an example. And I don't think you remember the person, but a long time ago, I had befriended somebody who was a good friend once upon a time, but as I had let it be known before, I had a drug problem. Well, they had a worse drug problem because I didn't steal from my friends, and this person had stolen from me, and they had stolen from me twice. Well, it got to the point that we were still friends in the club. Wait a minute, we were still friends in the club.
I need to shake the stuffing out of you.
I gave the person the benefit of the doubt the first time because, you know, you tend to give your friends the benefit of the doubt.
If they stole from you?
Well, you know, she said she didn't, and I didn't have proof, you know, but the second time I saw the proof, you know, and, but anyway, I still hung out with them in the club, but they no longer I no longer drove them to the club, and I no longer let them in my home. So we were just club buddies then.
Well, Lisa, I had an experience that wasn't, I mean, it was not all that long ago where I had a friend that I was infinitely good to because I'm very good to my friends, and I'm blessed because they're very good to me. And this person was just took and took and took and took. And I'm not talking about money because I learned a long time ago, to be careful with that. I'm just talking about my time. And
Well, things that can't be replaced, money can be replaced. Sometimes the damage you put on another person's soul takes a very long time.
Right. She was self-centered and she was selfish and I was going through a very bad time after I lost my father, and she exploited my weakness and got me in the middle of a situation that I mean really used me. And I'll tell you something, when I woke up and really saw her for what she was, I didn't just demote her, I kicked her the hell out of my life.
Right. Well, that's an evil, isn't it?
Well, I wouldn't call her evil. I would just call her a sociopath. Who is not self-aware. But you know what? I mean, she's reached out to me, months ago. She surfaced. And you know what? I don't want her near me or in my life, or she needs to find other sociopaths that
Absolutely.
she can start a club with. Okay,
absolutely. Debbie had her hand up. That was all I saw was a hand. It was like that. Go ahead, Debbie.
People are in your lives for reasons, whether they're good or bad, evil, good, whatever. And it's always, you can always take something or learn something from the people that you experience in life. So,
I agree. Some people are in your lives to show you what not to do. But, there was an epiphany in my life where I realized that not only are people in my lives for a reason, but that I'm in people's lives for a reason. And when I got that, it made me a lot more responsible and a better human being.
There you go, exactly, yep.
Paula.
Lisa, one of my favorite sayings that I made up, I must say, is, gosh, that sounded conceited. One of my, okay, it's Debbie's favorite saying. It's Debbie's favorite saying.
No, that's okay. Listen, there's nothing wrong with being a fan of yourself.
All right, patting myself on the back. Okay, we teach people how to treat us, so be a good teacher so you have good students. But here's the thing.
I think that's a great quote.
Thank you. If I have somebody in my life that doesn't treat me on par with how I treat them, and they're not good to me, and I allow it, then I'm the idiot. Then It's my fault, not their fault.
Right.
You can train. I believe in open feedback. Okay, and my friends know this, and they do the same with me. If somebody is not acting, righteously, we all have bad days. We all have flaws. I mean, I have made big mistakes, huge mistakes in my friendships. And I've tried to make amends. I mean, we're all flawed human beings. That's what being human is about. But if somebody doesn't treat you right, I don't believe in just throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I try to give feedback so that, maybe we can salvage, the friendship. But,
right.
But here's the thing, like I said, if somebody, for example, if you're always there for somebody and they're too busy to ever be there for you when you're in need, you don't have to dump them, but just don't ever be there for them. It's just I don't understand. It's not rocket science. It's just what you will tolerate and what you won't. And there's a lot of good people in this world, and it's like, why are you wasting your energy with the buttheads?
I hear you.
The one that I threw out of my life and dumped. I mean, I'll tell you, I didn't miss her one day. I never missed her when I thought, there would be a void. I didn't miss her one day because she was an emotional drain. She was a kvetch, and it was like, good riddance. You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean, but for those that don't know what a kvetch is, can you tell them? Somebody that always whines and complains. Go ahead. Go ahead, Debbie.
That's all I have to say, really, about,
Well, I definitely don't think that you should burn bridges and, when it comes to people, with the exception of, and I don't think it's burning a bridge when somebody, when you see somebody throwing knives at you, it's stupid to stand there, isn't it? So that's not burning a bridge. That's not burning a bridge at all. Anyway, that ends this week's show of Informants. but it was an interesting show with only three of us. I don't know where Paula went, but
I'm right here, Lisa. I'm right here.
so
Go with a quote
go ahead.
from George Bush.
Oh, okay.
Fool me once, shame on.
Shame on you. Fool me once,
Fool me,
you're foolish. or
fool me
something.
twice, and you're the fool.
Okay, and I wanna end a quote from me.
Okay.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. Hey, let's have a threesome.
There you go. I'm not going to end with a quote, but I am going to say goodbye on this week's Informants, and we'll see you next week. With Julie Farrell, we'll be back. Julie from the UK will be back, and we'll see who else we can get. I don't think that Tina's coming back on the show. She's got a lot going on in her life right now. I'm not sure about Jenny or Brian. But anyway, say goodbye, everybody.